Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. This will be a brief review of a movie called The InLaws from, I believe, 2002. This is a DVD 4-pack, 4 wedding-themed movies. 4 film favorites, the wedding collection. I really enjoyed the various 4-packs that I have. I have one with action movies such as Point of No Return, Specialist, Passenger 57, and one other film on that one. It's the Eraser movie, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So this is a wonderful treat that they put these 4 things together. And on the one that I'm watching right now, which is a martial arts 4-pack, some of them actually are on 2 to a disc. Other ones you have one on one side, one on the other. So I'm watching Rumble on the Bronx. It's on the same one as Corruptor. And then on the other disc is Showdown in Little Tokyo, and then one other film. So I'll watch Showdown in Little Tokyo a little bit later. One of my favorite movies, and really it's only about an hour and 15 minutes. But this is basically about these films, these 4-packs, and in particular we're going to be reviewing this portion of the 4-pack. These are all New Line pictures except for the one that I'm reviewing, which is a Warner Brothers production of a franchise picture, and it's directed by Andrew Fleming. It's offered a part in a movie. Basically it was just going to be I was told it was non-union at one point, and then I was going to be offered a union role, but I guess then they ended up filming it at a different time period. But it was called Barefoot, and that's starred Evan Rachel Wood and Scott Speedman and J.K. Simmons. And it was a long-delayed movie. I believe the offer came in for me in 2011 or 12, but it was finally released in 2014. The reason I bring that up is the director I met with is Andrew Fleming of that. So of all the different directors in Hollywood I met up with is Ron Underwood, the City Slickers director, and Tremors, among other films, Heart and Souls, and even Pluto Nash. So this movie by no means is a Pluto Nash, but it was not a box office hit. In fact, I believe it was a box office flop. I'm estimating that it cost around $40 million and grossed about $20 million. And let me show you how weird this is. This is the InLaws, right? It stars Michael Douglas and Albert Brooks. But look who that is. It's Ryan Reynolds. So they're not even marketing that Ryan Reynolds is in this movie. That tells you that this is a movie from back in the day. Back in the day, 2003. So I was an adult when I saw this movie, though, so that's what kind of throws me off sometimes. But I was, an adult, I was partying with a friend of mine. We went to go see this movie, The InLaws. And this was at the Terra Vista 6 Cinema. Now, just within 11 years of it opening, it had already become a discount theater due to the multiplex coming in down the street, and then 2 other multiplexes coming right to the area as well as many other multiplexes. So Terra Vista, it's 6-plex theater, had started to discount tickets, and they were making no overtures towards optimum film projection or anything at that time. They were pretty much old school, and you knew what you were getting when you got there. So it was very easy to sneak into the theater, and it was very easy to stay all day or stay as long as you wanted, or come back later and see another movie for free or whatever, having known everyone there and know how to get in and everything like that. So that was the Edwards Terra Vista Theater, and I believe that's still there, existing in kind of the shape that it's been in now. Not necessarily in the best repair, not necessarily in disrepair, but a functional theater that tends to have movies maybe a week or 2 old, but not that old. But they do have the new releases as well, and they do have bargain prices, I guess you would say. I saw Jurassic World there in 2015. So when I watched this in the theater then, I was barely amused, I guess you would say. And the movie, I'm not giving like a wholehearted endorsement. I'd say that it's a good way to pass the time. Albert Brooks appearing in a movie that he didn't write or direct is a rarity and something that I'd like to see more of. Especially, he's in Taxi Driver, he's in Broadcast News, tend to be a little bit more of dramatic comedies or dramatic. Not that Taxi Driver is a comedy at all, but um, Broadcast News certainly has more comedic stuff going on than that. And that's a drama for the most part. So here he is playing in a spy comedy. I guess you would describe this as a spy comedy because here you go. Look, you look at the leads. Wedding singer guy's kissing his girl. Chris O'Donnell's kissing the Bachelorette there, and you got Jennifer Lopez hanging out with her husband or whatever there, her fiance. But there you got Ryan Reynolds hanging out with the younger lady that he's with there because he's engaged to her. And it's because their engagement sets the plot in action, but they're actually not the main characters, is what my point is. They're not the main characters whatsoever. In fact, I've never really seen that actress too much. She was in some romantic comedies and the like during that era. Robin Tunney, who was in The Craft. Andrew Fleming made a movie called, I think, Bad Dreams. And then he made a movie about young co-eds doing, threesomes and stuff. And that movie was actually called Threesome. And that came out in 1993. And that had Josh Charles and I believe one of the Baldwin brothers, Stephen, and Lara Flynn Boyle. That's a movie I definitely would like to re-see. I definitely remember seeing that as a young person and going actually on a date to go watch that movie as a young person. Because it was quite the controversial subject matter in the early 90s as that term began being termed, and people were kind of interested in having movies about that subject matter, obviously. So then you got the InLaws. He makes years after he makes The Craft. So he makes The Craft after he makes a Threesome. And then I'm not too sure what he did right between that, but a movie called D.I.C.K. And it's a strange title, of course, but they're referring to Dick Nixon, Richard Nixon. So that was a movie about the White House scandal of the 70s with Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams in it. And people really do like that movie. I'm not a huge fan, but definitely a very poor title. Very misleading title. But obviously it's about Richard Nixon, and that's his nickname for those of the president back in the 70s. God bless him. So then going forward here, Peter Ustinov is in The Bachelorette. I gotta watch that one again, or The Bachelor. I haven't seen that one in a while. Candice Bergen, Murphy Brown from television, and a score of different movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Carnal Knowledge, Stick, starring George Segal and Burt Reynolds, among many other films. I do feel that she does a good job here in this role. There's like a former love affair between her and Michael Douglas. The wife character of Albert Brooks, the one that he's married to, it just got her name, but she's very nondescript. She almost kind of reminds me of Patricia Heaton from... you call that one. Everybody Loves Raymond. Then you got Ryan Reynolds, and he does a good job with the role he's given. He is the son of Michael Douglas. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. And he's the son, and then that broad's the daughter of Albert Brooks. And Albert Brooks is some kind of doctor or something. And basically, I mean, I'd be remiss not to say that it's a remake. It is a remake. I don't know if it's a shot-for-shot remake because I've seen both, and they both seem pretty different to me. There wasn't want to say, there are minor differences, but differences that you notice enough. I like this one, and I like the other one. I'm not really going to compare the two. The other one had Alan Arkin and Peter Falk, and also Richard Libertini, who had a very memorable role in Fletch, Part One. Um, Fletch. Um, Franchise Pictures, I don't believe is still active. I don't think that's still an umbrella of Warner Brothers or independent house of any kind. I think the production design is a real strength of this movie. So, I mean, you could say, yeah, the comedy is a miss mostly because basically the most of the comedy comes from this Albert Brooks guy getting to not like Michael Douglas's character as they're supposed to be, in-laws together of this kid, of this marriage, that they're not getting along. They go to get some spicy food at this crazy restaurant. Michael Douglas basically eating like exotic snake and crazy spicy food. I think he disappears at one point and gets involved in like a shout, like in the alley or something like that. Just crazy antics. He's a spy, and I think it's pretty apparent to most people that he's a spy, but it's kind of, he's kind of James Bond, or trying to keep it undercover. And then he's got this assistant with Robin Tunney, and I pretty sure I remember them in the commentary saying that they were like, trying to make it that Robin Tunney and Michael Douglas had something going on together, but it didn't work out organically, and it didn't fit, but it's still lingering there, so it's kind of have this little Me Too vibe to it. But I mean, I find that they are playing it tongue in cheek pretty well, as far as assistant and the main spy, and she actually kicks ass pretty well in the movie. It has some pretty good action scenes that are pretty cheaply done, and for 25-30 million dollar budget, most of that probably went to the actors. This was a pretty well produced movie, production design point of view. Um, the director of photography, I'm gonna look him up and see, Alexander Grudzinski, what else he did. Because in terms of comedies, I found that this camera movement and the effects and everything was done pretty well. Um, so it's a very strange movie. I wouldn't say it's a romantic comedy in any way, except that the plot is that they're going to be getting married, but they don't have a meet cute. They don't meet officially in the plot of the movie, and if they do, it's pretty bare bones. And Ryan Reynolds is clearly like fourth or fifth building and is fine with it. This is in the era right after Van Wilder, I do believe. I think I saw Van Wilder at the very same theater about a year beforehand. So it's kind of interesting that he took this role, but he probably was. I mean, think about it. He just 6-7 years after this would become a major star, and was in the Green Lantern with Warner Brothers. So it made sense strategically. He wanted to get in good with this studio, and I think if you look over his roster of movies, 16, 17 years, he's hit some with New Line and Warner Brothers, but then obviously has had a fruitful relationship with Fox going forward, but we'll see how that carries over with Disney. He's had a lot of movies he's tried to get out there on the strength of Deadpool, and some of them haven't panned out. This Pikachu movie is now coming out soon. But he's got one based on the very famous board game Clue, and he hasn't finished that one just yet. So I would love to see Charles Bronson in a romantic comedy or something like that. But you kind of see Michael Douglas's character is a pretty big ass, even though he's an aged type of spy. I thought he did pretty good in his performances. He's basically tells Albert Brooks to quit being such a baby sometimes, as he helps him on some spy adventures. And it's not exactly like the plot's rocket science or anything like that. I mean, it's basically like, hey, your daughter's marrying my son, and you're going to get to know more about this criminal plot that we're trying to unlock together. So might as well man up and help me out with this spy thriller type plot so we can get back to the wedding on time. And that's the movie. So if that appeals to you, I would suggest you check out InLaws. You can go ahead and pick this whole thing up because you get a really good copy of Wedding Singer, which is actually a really entertaining movie to watch all these years later. And Monster In-Laws, good movie to pass the time with. And a movie I got to revisit again is The Bachelor. I tried watching it about a year ago. It didn't really catch me, but I do enjoy. I do have fond memories of the movie being out in theaters years ago. Uh, yeah, some oral on a date watching that movie, so I'd love to check out The Bachelor again and see, you know, if there was anything good to the movie or if it was just a nice date that I was on, and it worked out in that regard. But The Bachelor, yeah, for sure. It was right when Renee Zellweger was becoming a big star, and it really didn't do well financially. In fact, none of these movies really did well financially, except Wedding Singer was a pretty big hit, and Monster in Law, I think, it made some money, but they wanted it a lot. They wanted it to be a bigger movie, but it's still, it wasn't a flop or anything like that. In-Laws was a flop, but hey, still has a. I think it's pretty good. I wouldn't mind seeing another reversion of it, maybe with like a more diverse cast. Seeing someone like Sterling K. Brown play the Michael Douglas role, and like Cedric the Entertainer play Albert Brooks. I would really get a kick out of that, actually. Maybe not Sterling K. Brown. He seems a little too serious for me. So just some other actor, maybe like Kevin Hart. Yeah, I'd like to see that movie. Yeah, maybe Kevin Hart age him up a little bit so he can play the Michael Douglas role. That'd be pretty good. But anyway, guys, hope you're having a good day out there. And we're signing off for the Barbecue Network here. Going to watch some of the NBA playoffs basketball. And I already had some dinner. And hope you all have a great evening. Thanks so much. Bye for now.